Good afternoon, students. Welcome again to the session of English at Aryan Gurukul. Today's chapter we have selected Standing Up for Yourself. According to the title of the chapter, this is about being independent. Being independent or to stand up on yourself or for yourself. That is about today's story, and this is written by Yevgeny Yevashenko, who is a Russian writer, dramatist, screenwriter, actor, and a director of films. So, according to him, how to stand up on yourself, for yourself, he has narrated from his own story, own life story, and from this we will understand how to stand up for yourself and why to stand up for yourself. How to stand up for yourself and why to stand up for yourself. So, the story starts like this here. In 41, I was living alone in an empty flat in a quiet Moscow street. He starts. So, in 41 and at 41, both are of different meanings. So, in 41 means in the year 41, at 41 means it is about age. So, in our prose it is in 41. So, that is about the year he is telling about. Okay, so in 41, the narrator was living in an empty flat in Moscow street. So, here according to his date of birth, that is about 1933, and this is about 41. So, it is about 9 years. He was of 9 years and he was living in an empty flat. Okay, so why he was alone? Where are his parents? My parents were divorced and my father was somewhere in Kazakhstan with his new wife and their 2 children. So here, according to him, his parents were divorced. They were living apart, and his father went with another woman with her children to live with her. And only relationship remained between the father and the son were only some letters. Occasionally, he was getting, I seldom received letters from him. So, he was getting some letters. So, here it is, you see seldom. Seldom we are getting some letters. The meaning of seldom is not often. Not often means the opposite to often is seldom. That means rarely. Rarely he was getting some letters from his father, and that was the only relationship left between the father and the son. Okay? So, now next is, what is about her mother? Her mother joined in army. Her mother joined in army and she sang for the troops. So my mother was at the front. At the front means the army. She joined army. She had given up her work as a geologist. Before that she was a geologist and she quit that job and joined army, and there became a singer and was giving concerts for the troops, for the soldiers she was singing. Okay, so as a singer, she joined the army. Okay, and his father went away with another lady to live with her. So the narrator became alone. So he lived in a empty flat in a quiet Moscow street. my education was left to the street. So his education was from the street. Whatever he learnt, that was from the street itself. And what the street taught him, he says, the street taught me to swear, smoke, spit elegantly through my teeth, and to keep my fish at ready. So all the bad habits he learned from the street. All the bad habits. That is to spit elegantly, and that means feeling proud of spitting, and smoking, and another that is to swear. Swear means to make false promises. Okay, so making false promises, smoking, spitting, okay, and always ready with a closed fist. That means he was a quarrelsome. He quarreled with anybody. He did not hesitate to quarrel with anybody. So these all bad habits he learned from the street, because nobody was there to take care of him, to teach him good things. Whatever he found and he learned. But he says that is the habit of keeping my feast always ready, that I have to this. That means till then, when he grew up, till then, that habit remained with him. And again, another, he says, the street taught me not to be afraid of anything. And he became fearless. He did not care anybody. And that he calls a good thing. Okay, and these two habits, not to care anybody and always getting ready to fight against anything, these two things remained with him, and other those bad habits, gradually he quit. Okay, and this is another habit I have kept. That means these two habits that remained with him till he became elder. I realized that what mattered in the struggle for life was to overcome my fear, those who were stronger. So in the society, there are some weaker section and stronger section. So he learned, he realized in this street, living alone, that how to stand on his own legs, or to be independent, and not to fear of any stronger. Not to fear any stronger, that he learned. Okay, so that is a good thing he learned. And next, subsequently, he narrates how he became stronger. The ruler of our street. Here he narrates another incident of his street in his childhood days. He states that in his street there was a ruler. Who was that ruler? He was a boy of about 16. He was only 16 years old. But he was the ruler of the street. How it is possible? Because he says that Red, his name was Red, who was 16. And he was the ruler of the street. So how it is possible? But it was possible then. Red was big and broad-shouldered, beyond his years. So, though he was 16, he was looking more than 16. Okay, so he says that he was beyond his age, and his shoulders were broad. He was of good physique, okay, and looking more than his age. And Red walked masterfully up and down our street, legs wide and with a slightly rolling gait. Gait means speed, style. Okay, his style was something different from others, and while he was walking on the street, he was walking like the owner of the street, as if he was the owner. Okay, and like a seaman on his deck, as if he was the ruler and he was the owner of the street, and everybody must obey his orders and instructions. Okay, so that's why people in the street carried him from under his care. So how he looked and how he maintained his you can say that is his style. His style was from under his cap, he'd speak always at the back of his head. So always he was wearing a cap of which the beak was at the back. Okay, like a gunda you can say. And his forelock means hair. His forelock tumbled down in a fairy cascade. So his hair, front hair was falling to cover his the best part of his forehead. Okay, and out of his round pock-marked face, and face was pock-marked, full of spots in his face. And his eyes were like cats. He had cat's eye. Okay, so he was looking ugly. That means he was quite ugly and furious. Sparkled with scorn for everything and everyone. So, a scornful look. That means he hated everybody. Okay, he was not satisfied with anybody or anything. Okay, so two or three lieutenants in peaked caps back to front like rats tripped at his heels. So he was not alone. Who was walking on the street? He had 2 to 3 lieutenants with him, companions, supporters, okay, and you can say assistants he had, and they were always going along with him and tripped at his heels. That means as he was walking, they were also walking along with him. Then Red could stop any boy. How he behaved people. He could stop any boy on the road and say impressively the one word, that is money. That means whoever he found, he asked for money. That was the only word he knew. Okay, and he was asking. So when anybody protested, the lieutenant should turn out the boy's pockets. As he asked money, his lieutenants, without missing any time, go forward and put their hands in the pocket of the boy. Okay, but if he resisted, they beat him up hard. So if he resisted, if he objected, then they beat him up. Okay, everyone was afraid of Red. So that's why everybody was afraid of Red and they were avoiding Red. Okay, and so was I. So the narrator was also afraid of Red. He was not excluded. Okay, and he was not exceptional, you can say. He was not exceptional. He was also a common boy of 9. And being 9 year old, he was also afraid of Red. But I knew he carried a heavy knuckle duster, metal knuckle duster in his pocket. Because he had a secretly putting a knuckle duster in his pocket, using that as a weapon. Okay, when he was blowing anybody. That's why that secret the narrator had known. So he was much afraid of Red. Okay, and again he says in third unit, I wanted to conquer my fear of Red. So how long one could live like that with fear of Red? So he decided. He decided and he wanted to, that means overcome the fear of Red. So I wrote a poem about him. This was my first piece of journalism in verse. In verse means in poems. Okay, in the poem form, in lines, he wrote a poem against Red, elaborately narrating all the bad qualities of Red. He wrote a poem. Okay, and he distributed that in the street. Okay, by the next day, due to that, by the next day, the next day itself, the whole street knew it by heart and exulted with triumphant hatred. Okay, so the whole street was so much anxious of reading that poem and let it by hearted it. And out of triumphant hatred means Tempered hatred means hat, and this is tempered means victory. So hating him, they felt victorious. They hated him, but they had no courage of hating even red. Okay, but they hated and felt victorious. Yes, so that is called tempered hatred. One morning, okay, so he wrote a poem, the whole state rioted it, and they felt victorious of offending or just hating red. One morning on my way to school, I suddenly came upon Red and his lieutenants. So one day what happened one morning when he was going to school, he met Red and his lieutenants. So his eyes seemed to bore through me. So as that Red glared at him, looked at him, he felt that as if he was hurting him. Okay. And the poet, he commented the narrator that, poet, he drawled, smiling crookedly, so you write verses. Do they rhyme? Yes. So he said, he commented on him that he was writing poems, which was quite an offense. Okay. So what he did, Red's hand darted into his pocket. Okay. And involuntarily, his hand went inside his pocket, and immediately, like a lightning, with a lightning speed, came out armed with its knuckle duster. It flashed like lightning and struck my head. So, with a lightning speed, he gave him a big blow on his head. Okay, due to which I fell down screaming with blood and lost consciousness. So, with that blow on his head with that knuckle duster, the narrator fell down on the floor and became senseless. Okay, unconscious. This was my first remuneration. Remuneration means a salary. Okay, the wage he got as a payout. Okay, as a payout, he got that blow on his head and getting unconscious. And he kills, that is his remuneration. And I spent several days in bed. So due to that injury, he fell ill and spent many days on the bed, having bandage in his head. When I went out, after some days, when he got well, he came out of the house. But on when as he came out of the house with the bandage on his head, I again saw Red. He again found Red in the street. I struggled with myself but lost and took to my heels. Took to my heels means he went away. Okay, he fled away because he had no courage to face Red again because he had a blow in his head. Okay, due to that writing of a poem. Okay, so he had no courage. So he could not stand up on his feet. So again, due to lack of that courage to face Red, he fled away again. He could not face Red. So at home, when he returned home, I rolled on my bed, beating my pillow, pounding it in shame and impotent fury at my cowardice. So he felt himself a coward. He felt himself as a coward and he beat his pillow. Okay, felt shameful. And but the next moment I made up his mind. He made up his mind. So he decided what? To vanquish it at whatever cost. However, anyway, he wanted to overcome fear of Red from his heart. Okay. So he had fear in him about Red. So he wanted to overcome the fear of Red in him. Okay. So what he did something. He decided to go to a gym. I went into training with parallel bars and weights. So he joined a gym, and after every session of exercise, I would feel my muscles, they were getting bigger but slowly. Okay, so he found when he joined the gym and spent some time in exercises. So he felt that his muscles were growing and getting harder. Okay, and he was satisfied. Then I remember something I had read in a book about a miraculous Japanese method of wrestling which gave an advantage to the weak over the strong. So he remembered that once in the past he had read a book on such techniques of becoming stronger and to face the stronger. Okay, so that means to overcome his weakness of fearing the stronger, he decided to read such a book and get some idea from that book, and that is about wrestling. Okay, and I exchanged a week's ration card for a textbook on Jiu-Jitsu, and that was the book where Jiu-Jitsu. Okay, Jiu-Jitsu was the book. That means Jiu-Jitsu is an art. Okay, that was written in that book. So he exchanged some ration and got that book. He bought that book and read it out. And for 3 weeks I stayed at home practicing with two other boys. Okay, he called his friends to him and he practiced with them. Okay, somebody is needed to practice. That means wrestling. Then I went out. So after 3 weeks of training, rigorous training, with all the instructions ready, he went out. And there, what he found? Red was sitting on the lawn in our yard. Okay, so as he went out, he found Red playing cards in the yard. Okay, in the street and playing winged tune with the lieutenants. He was absorbed in the game. So the boy Red was totally lost in the game. Okay, he had no idea about his surroundings. Who was there? Who was not? Okay, so he was absorbed in the game, means he was totally lost in the game and he was enjoying the game. Then fear was still deep in me. Still he had fear in him because he had got a blow from Red. And that blow is always reminding him that Red was stronger than him. Okay, Red was stronger than him. That's why he had given him a blow. So he could not forget that blow and that pain and that shame, you can say. So still that fear was inside him and urged me to go back. Okay, and his mind was telling him, asking him to go away from Red because you are not so courageous or so powerful to face Red. But I went up to the players and kicked and scattered the cards. But accumulating some courage in him, he went straight to the play and scattered all the cards here and there. Okay, and so that was an offense, you see. That was an offense. And what was the reaction in Red? Red looked up, surprised at my impudence after my recent flight. So whatever the narrator did with Red, that was quite offensive. And Red looked up with anger. Okay, and he said, he got up slowly. Oh, you looking for more? Okay, because he had beaten him earlier and now he thinks that that was not enough to control him, to bring him into control. Okay, so he threatened him to give him something more. As before, as practice, he had a practice of putting his hand inside the pocket while he was quarreling with anybody involuntarily. Okay, so as before, his hand dived into his pocket for the knuckle duster. But I made a quick jabbing movement and Red, howling with pain, rolled on the ground. But all the tricks the narrator had learnt, So he was noticing how Red was putting his hand inside the pocket to bring out that knuckle duster. Okay, so with a jabbing blow. Okay, as he had his hand inside the pocket, the very moment he gave him a big blow onto his head, due to which Red fell on the ground. Bewildered means confused. He was totally confused because he had never been blown by anybody. He had beaten others, but he was not beaten by anybody. So he was totally confused how this boy of 9 could beat me. Okay, so he was quite confused. And he got up and came at me, swinging his head furiously from side to side like a maddened bull. So Red got up and came furiously like a bull, maddened bull. Okay, from moving his head from side to side. But what the narrator did, I caught his wrist. As he came to him, he caught his wrist. Okay, wrist of that hand in which he had that knuckle duster. Okay, so I caught his hand and squeezed slowly. He squeezed his wrist slowly, as I had read in the book. He had learned from the book all the tricks. Okay, how to tackle his enemy. So he caught hold of his hand and squeezed. And then what happened? Until the knuckle duster dropped from his limp finger. So due to this act, his hand was, the knuckle duster fell from his fingers. Okay. Nursing his hand, Red fell down again. So as he was tired, as he was blown, so he fell down. Okay, Red fell on the ground. He was sobbing and smearing. Sobbing means crying. And smearing his tears with his fist. Okay, so smearing the tears over his pock-marked face with his grubby fist. So he was wiping his tears from his cheeks. Okay, so he was crying and wiping tears. That day, from that day onwards, Red was no more the king of the street. No more he was the ruler of the street. Okay, so, and from that day on I knew for certain that one need not fear the strong. Okay, and that was the lesson that day he got, that there is no need of fearing any strong. Okay, so only thing is to wipe out your fear of strong from you. Okay, so how to overcome fear of the stronger? That is important. Not to fear. Okay, not to fear the strong, but to wipe out the fear from you, that is inside you, about the strong. Okay, so that lesson you learned. All one needs is to know the way to beat them. Yes. If you know how to beat them, no need to fear. Okay, and for every strong man there is a special jujitsu. So jujitsu is such an art with which one can tackle anybody. Okay, and what I also learned on this occasion was that to be a poet. So in subsequent periods he became the poet, and that he stood for that poem. That means he was a critic. He criticized so many people, so many politicians, and so many social disturbances. So he wrote against all these evils of the society, and he stood for his statements. Okay, and so he became a poet, and he stood for it, and hired not only to write poems but know how to stand up for them. So he wrote the poems and he stood up for them. That means he justified that he was right, not that he was weak. He made himself stronger to any evil of the society. That means this is a lesson that we must learn in our life, that to stand for yourself. Whatever you do, but you have to stand for that, because there may be so many critics, so many enemies in the society. So we must stand for our own, and that is the responsibility of the person himself. Okay, so this is all about our story, standing up for yourself, and from his own experience as he had written, this is justified that one must stand for himself. So, this is the lesson. Nobody is responsible for our success or failure. You must take the responsibility of your own success. Nobody will come forward to support you as long as you are not stronger. If you are weak, nobody will help you. If you are strong, all will come forward to help you. Yes? So, this thought, have this thought in you and stand for yourself. Okay? So, this is all about our story, standing up for yourself, and my advice is to you that all the comprehension questions you must do it, okay, and get clear about this chapter, and thus will give you more knowledge. Thank you very much for being with us today.